Howdy y'all, welcome back to the channel. Recently, I was doing some research into the old Roman bridges of Europe when I came across an absolutely astounding set of photographs of Lyon, France. These few images led me down the rabbit hole of research, scouring the internet through museums and private collections and images sent to me by viewers. What I found and what I am presenting with you today is what I believe to be the most definitive set of those images. In today's video, we will look at over 150 of the oldest, rarest, and most telling photographs of Lyon, France from before World War II. A large portion of these images come to us from pre-1900, when Lyon was at the height of French Victorian culture. Before diving into the current narrative history of Lyon, which I will present with you shortly, I wanted to point out a few things to look for in these images. 1. The ancient superstructure walls. The fortified ancient walls, said to be mainly Roman in design, which encapsulate the city. These fortifications, within the oldest maps and the oldest artistic depictions from the 18th century and earlier, appear to reveal that Lyon, like many of the other greatest cities in Europe, was at once a star fort or a fortified city, a defensive-minded superstructure with architecturally sound designs, immense walls many meters thick surrounding a larger urban area, usually built under the auspices of the Holy Roman Empire. Many times these star forts seem inherited by the Holy Roman Empire from an earlier time, often said to be built during Roman or Byzantine rule, while the blueprints of these star forts, or the designs, were adopted by later architects of the 16th and 17th centuries. During that period, roughly around the 17th century, star forts and their designs had a resurgence around the world, with a few of them even being found the whole way in America. Now, digressing from that, as we look at the retaining wall fortifications, one thing that has always stood out to me is the sheer craftsmanship that would need to go into a design like this. Massive walls aside, to have all of the walls interconnected along the coastline, within the river, within the water, basically holding back the mighty river from impeding upon Lyon, an achievement said to be from Roman times, I believe this detail really paints the picture of the ability given to our Roman ancestors. The second thing I noticed is, and reading your comments on other videos, this is clear again in the narrative of many other old world cities, but we can notice the magnitude of these buildings is very impressive, but no less impressive when we compare these buildings and these structures to similar architecture of cities found all around the world. Now, I won't get into it too deeply, but if you have watched my last video on Richmond, Virginia, I'd like for you to compare the buildings in Richmond to the ones you see here today in Old World Lyon. There are at least 4 distinct examples of structures which appear to be the exact same design found in both Richmond and in Lyon. Understandably, there was a great French influence in Richmond from the French Huguenots, but in my opinion, there are photos here which, from a distance, you could argue the buildings are the exact same. We also have specific monuments that were built in Lyon, which resemble now lost monuments that were found on Monument Avenue in Richmond. Just a little extra food for thought if you have watched my last video and you are looking for some things to compare and to contrast. And the last thing I wanted to point out before diving into the overarching narrative of Lyon is how much it appears that esoteric research comes into play when we look into the structures of Lyon. Not that I'm basing this off of anything but my own curiosity, but looking into the merging of the number and the word as written in the Kabbalah and looking into the practice of gematria. I find it odd just how many times repeating numbers and influential numbers come up within this narrative of Lyon and within the structures of Lyon and their measurements. I repeatedly see the numbers 66 and 666 occurring in these measurements and descriptions. I just find it both strange and fascinating that as we look into the history of different major cities all around the world, we can find these structures that seem to be in the same locations in all these different cities, and they have the same names, they have the same measurements, and it's really odd, almost as if they all came from one original designer, one original architect. Almost as if the buildings themselves, the cities as a whole, were designed, manufactured, if you want to look at it that way, as part of a larger city plan that was basically adopted at some point by all these major cities around the world. The similarities between supposedly unrelated structures and buildings from all corners of the earth only adds fuel to our fire of this questioning. But I digress. For the remainder of this video, I'd like to briefly compress the current narrative history of Lyon down to present it to you as we look at the remaining oldest and rarest photographs of that great city. As always, your input means the world to me, and if any aspect of this narrative or any of these photographs stand out to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section down below. But let's get right into it. Lyon has been occupied since prehistoric times. The first documented history comes to us from the Romans settling the area in 43 BC. However, recent excavations have revealed significant evidence of an earlier Celtic occupation. This can also be attested in the original name of Lyon, which was Lugdunum. Dunum in High Celtic refers to a citadel on a hill. Lug could refer to the Celtic god Lug, while others may argue it refers to the Latin root word lux, meaning light. Lugdunum was the capital of Gaia Lugdunensis, a province of Rome in the Celtic territory of Gaul. Lugdunum was considered to be Rome's most important city west of Italy, and outside the fortified city limits of Lugdunum or Lyon were held the Sanctuary of the Three Gauls, where representatives throughout the Roman Empire would meet to make decisions and to celebrate the cult of Rome and Augustus. Augustus, being the Roman leader who first invaded Germania in 20 BC and who first settled Lugdunum. Within 20 years, Lugdunum had fortified aqueducts. The oldest amphitheater in the Three Gauls opened with 4,500 seats in Lugdunum in 15 BC. Hadrian would later expand this theater to become the amphitheater of the Three Gauls, which included over 11,700 seats and was one of the largest amphitheaters in all of the Roman Empire. At the top of the hill of the fortified city of Lugdunum, where currently ruins sit, once lied the Roman Basilica, as well as the Lugdunum Forum and the Lugdunum Temple. Also built atop this hill was the Lugdunum Roman Circus. The city also had a mint to create coins from the earliest days of Lugdunum. Within 3 centuries, the population had exceeded 70,000 people. Lugdunum became the capital of the 3 Gauls, the official capital of Gaul, where the other Gauls would be ruled from. Lugdunum was considered to be the wealthiest city west of Italy as well, and this can be attested to when the greatest donations after the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD came from Lugdunum. Lugdunum was also said to take refugees at this time. Profoundly, and somewhat unexplainably, Lugdunum itself suffered a great fire just 1 year later in 65 AD. Nero was the Roman emperor for both of these incidents. Christianity was brought to Lugdunum by the Greeks who had settled in Asia Minor. In 177 AD, the Christian community of Lugdunum sent a letter to Asia Minor indicating that 48 individuals had been martyred in Lugdunum, including Saint Pontanus, first bishop of Lyon. From here on, Christianity gained more traction in Lyon and the greater Roman Empire. As the empire moved closer to collapse, in the Middle Ages, Lugdunum remained relatively unfazed. In 843, Lugdunum was assigned the name of Lotharingia by the Treaty of Verdun and was passed to the Kingdom of Burgundy. Then, in 1157, it became the official center of the County of Lyon, under order of Frederick Barbarossa. The Archbishop of Lugdunum, at this point known as Lyon, conferred the title of Primate of the Gauls. Lyon remained relatively independent until 1312, when it was annexed by Philip the Fair to the Kingdom of France. During the reign of Louis XI, Lyon became the location for 4 annual fairs, much like the World's Fairs, drawing merchants from all across the world, especially from Florence. The intermingling of the arts in Lyon led Lyon to rapidly grow, with special interest from the banking families of Florence. The strategic location, as well as importance to the trade with Italy, also led Lyon to become the center of France's dealings with the Holy Roman Empire and with Italy in general. A real interesting tidbit comes to us from the Renaissance time period in France. We are told Lyon did not grow in the sense it never expanded beyond the bounds of its fortified city. Instead, we are told Lyon kept growing denser from the inside. As more and more population poured in, Lyon added to the city from within instead of building outside of the original Roman fortified walls. This could be partially due to the massive population of Roman times, over 70,000 people, having built such a vast and enormous city that it was still easily able to house the Renaissance population. Contributing to this is the sheer size and nature of some of these earliest structures found in Lyon. Vaulted ceilings, massive open space, this leaves room for the development to come from within. The first printing company was established in Lyon in 1482, and it quickly became one of, if not the most important printing and publishing centers in all of Europe, producing countless books in French, Greek, Latin, Italian, Hebrew, and Spanish. Lyon continues onward in this narrative, growing from within, and becomes a leading world producer of silk. So much so that when Napoleon I imposes the use of Lyon silk in all of European royal courts, the industry and indirectly the population of Lyon begin to boom. This led to the first litigation council for workers in Lyon in 1806 and the first modern grocery store in Lyon in 1835. Between the years 1800 and 1848 alone, over 90,000 people were employed in the silk production industry. Before we can have this silk industry revolution that occurred in Lyon and in France, and before we can have all of this industry come to Lyon and we see all of these factories and massive buildings, something happened that really changed the landscape for all time, and that was the French Revolution. In 1793, Lyon decided to rebel against the current government rule in what became known as the Revolt of Lyon against the National Convention. What followed was a 2-month-long brutal siege where much of Old World Lyon was destroyed, and over 2,000 people lost their lives, many of whom met the guillotine in the streets. We are told a large portion of the structures, especially the building faces and fronts, were lost or purposefully defaced during the French Revolution. We are told Napoleon quickly came in after the French Revolution to rebuild Lyon in his own design. Lyon was rebuilt as an industrialist city with a focus on urban development, much of the city built in the Haussmann style, popular in France in the time of Napoleon. Silk still reigned supreme, and the factories for silk production are amongst those epic buildings that are depicted in some of these photographs. Lyon was the center of the French resistance during World War II, but was eventually occupied by the Germans. We can see the destructive nature taking over Lyon once again during this time period. But I think I'm going to wrap up the narrative there. From here, we arrive upon more modern history, and you can do the research on that if you are so interested. What the focus was today, and in these images in particular, was to paint the picture of the architecture of the ancient past that was found in Old World Lyon. It's definitive, shaping the city, holding back the river, raising up the ground level, supporting and interconnecting retaining walls, containing passageways, replete with columns and castles and ancient Roman structures, all the while resembling many other structures, almost down to the exact angles, blueprints, and sometimes even the same names as buildings that are found in other major cities all around the world. Coincidence? Or is this possibly another puzzle piece to the overarching narrative which we are only beginning to understand and uncover? I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments about Old World Lyon down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so right here. The architecture and the city layout in Lyon, France is absolutely epic, and I'm really happy to be able to share these rarest images that I found with you here today. Thank you again so much for joining me on my channel. I look forward to talking with you and seeing you on the next video, and I can't wait to break this narrative apart with you. Cheers. And if the topic of Lyon really does interest you, stick with me for the remainder of this video. We have about 90 to 100 more images of Old World Lyon that I'd like to share with you, but I'm going to chime out on the narrative for right now. As I was going through these images, I didn't want to rush through any images. I wanted to keep them on the screen so you had a chance to view all of these details, to take in the image, and to point out what really stands out to you. So I had to leave them on the screen a little bit longer, and the video ended up being a little bit longer than I expected. So I'm just gonna let this go and let the sounds of some of my subscribers play. We have music from Drumstick, Urban Instrumentalist, and from Brian Goodlander. So enjoy their tones while you enjoy these images that I found for you. Different museums, private collections, and things like that. And we'll have images here, some from postcards from the old world, some from photochrome prints that were made into color, and other photographs that come from different collections that were sent to me by subscribers like you, so I really appreciate that. So again, enjoy the rest of these images and let me know what you think down below. Thanks for being here.